John Garcia, I hope your day is going well, my friend. Welcome into the game in T-Town.
Doing well, my guy. How about you?
Man, I'm doing great, man. Just getting ready for some Alabama football. And we're down to 17 days. I was explaining to the audience when I was coming back from Santa Clara, I thought, man, it's going to be a long offseason. So you don't realize when I say 17 days how good it means to be 17 days away from Alabama and Duke.
Absolutely. And, it drags on, and we create narratives and talk too much about certain things, but all that is pretty much done, which is nice.
Yes, it is. And this talent that's on this team, one of the questions that I want to get you to get into the conversation, when you look at this roster and you go out and you look at the eye test, this may be one of the most talented rosters I've ever seen in Tuscaloosa. And I know they may not play that well. Maybe they play great. Maybe they beat everybody by 60 points. But the eye test, they check that box, man. They check a lot of boxes. When you go out on this football field, you see talent top to bottom, 1 through 85 is pretty solid, my friend, here in T-Town.
Oh, there's no question. I mean, first of all, you can look at it in a lot of ways. Obviously, you can go way back to the recruiting rankings. You can go back to high school stats, however you feel is the best gauge. But if you just look at last year, which is obviously our most recent context, I mean, if the national title game goes any differently, not even a victory or a blowout win, if it's a close game, let's say, we remember the season as, probably a little bit of a failure, but, man, the road there was 30-point wins, Tua coming out at the half. Like, it was gaudy how Alabama played last year. I don't think we think about it as much as humans because the last game was so bad from an Alabama perspective, but really the talent last year and the results last year with most of these guys as sophomores, juniors, underclassmen, it was crazy. It was gaudy, and some people were saying this is the best team in college football history until January. So I think if you just think about that and you think of what comes back from that bunch, even without improvement, which is unsafe to assume, it should be close to that again. And then, again, we were talking about best ever. So when you factor another recruiting class coming into that, another year of maturity for all of those returners, which on offense, at quarterback and the skill positions, it's as good of a returning group as I've seen covering Alabama. You've got to feel really good about it from a talent perspective. And we always say when Alabama doesn't win the national championship, you don't want to deal with them that following year. So you throw in the non-tangible or the intangible, and now all of a sudden the motivation is there. The loss factor is there that we've seen Alabama recover from pretty much every time they've fallen on the greatest stage. So you factor all that together, and there's no reason for pessimism really at the outset of this season.
John, we make this statement. You've been covering recruiting. You've been our go-to guy when we talk about the world of recruiting, the world of college football, understanding the transition, from big-time high school football throughout the country to the University of Alabama and the Southeastern Conference. We always make this statement. They're getting bigger, faster, stronger. Is that the case, though, John? Like, go back to the first year that you got in this business. Are they getting faster, stronger? I mean, is this just something our eyes are having to adjust to? Because I just notice a different player showing up as a true freshman. Like, when I go out there and I look at Christian Harris, that guy looks nothing like a true freshman. He just doesn't look like a true freshman. Are they getting bigger, faster, stronger?
I think in certain cases, I thought you were going to use Evan Neal as your example.
Okay, yeah, and he looks nothing like that. He looks more like an
right,
NFL veteran than he does a true freshman.
Right, he looks like he's starting training camp, not college camp. I think with certain prospects like that, I mean, my gosh, yes, they're getting absolutely bigger. I just think everything has progressed in the right direction in terms of youth development. It's more serious than it's ever been. The kids are playing more sports than they've ever played, so they're not just, big and bulky in one area. They're kind of well-rounded, so they're that much more ready to contribute when asked to do things outside of their comfort zone because they've been outside their comfort zone in different sports coming up. Obviously, high school weight programs have come, even from my high school days in the early 2000s, from then to now, I mean, I know off the top of my head, Ryan, 10 high schools in Alabama and Florida that have indoor facilities.
Wow.
I mean, there's some colleges that don't have it, but there are high schools that have state-of-the-art weight rooms. It's almost like an arms race at that level, especially you talk about big schools in Birmingham, Mobile, et cetera. It's an arms race with those schools. Thompson's new weight room is a little underwhelming only compared to Alabama's, not compared to their peers. So I think all of those things have headed in the right direction. We're paying high school coaches more in the South than we've ever paid them, so they're taking more of a structural approach to the game. They're more CEO-like as opposed to, play callers, nitty-gritty, junction boys style guys. So I think everything from college is matriculated down to high school, and the information and data is as good as we've ever seen. So you combine all of that with kids who want to be developed and have tangible goals that they can just go on the internet and see, and they're doing different workouts. They're trying to eat better sooner in their lives. All of these different things that is contributing to bigger, faster, stronger, and that at a younger age, at 16, 17, as opposed to closing in on 20 like we used to see in the past with college athletes.
Let's go back to Evan Neal because you brought his name up. They're going to have a hard time keeping this guy off the field. They're going to have to find a way because you talk about best 5 offensive linemen. Don't you think his future is probably at left tackle? I mean, you think he's a future left tackle?
I do. I think for him, it's going to have to be obviously about, physically maintaining that frame and not adding to it. We forget, a lot of kids come in physically ready in terms of height, weight, whatever. But, man, the kids who don't, it's still really easy for them to add weight and to fill out and get to a certain point at the collegiate level. In the NFL draft, I think 80% of the first-round offensive linemen were like 275 or less in high school. So when they got to college, easy to throw 20, 30 pounds on them and go from there. But for Neal, he's an outlier, right? He's going the opposite way. He came in at 360 or whatever it is. Can you stay there or maybe shed from that point? Now, we're talking about a 6'8" frame, so it's easier said than done, and the 360 isn't as bad as what you would think for a 6'1", 6'2" kind of guy. He's legit 6'7", 6'8". This is not, fluff. So I think with him, it physically is where it begins. But when you talk about experience, technique, and what you want in this day and age, he has a lot of left tackle qualities, which is saying so much about his progression and athleticism at that size. But that's what we've seen. And he did it at IMG Academy for 3 years, which is rare these days. Most kids are there a year, maybe 2. He did 3 there, varsity all 3 years, basically the gauntlet, playing against college prospects the last 3 years. And he was, arguably the best left tackle in America coming out this past year. So I think that just makes you more ready. And like you said, that's his future. I think Alex Leatherwood is similar in terms of when he was coming out of high school and what we said about him. So it's his turn kind of there at left tackle. But by all indication, if things go well, he could test the NFL draft waters like we've seen with Jonah Williams, Cameron Robinson in the past at that position. So I think starting 2020, I think that's Neal's permanent position, and you go from there.
So, John, when you look at it from that perspective, I was just saying that you got to get this guy on the field. Whether because obviously Alex Leatherwood is going to be anchoring that left tackle, and I think he's going to have a great year. I think Leatherwood's ready for that, and I could see he's more comfortable. Talking to him a couple of weeks ago, you could see in his face he's just more for the season. He's not playing out of position. But Evan Neal, to get that experience, you're probably going to play him as one of the best 5 offensive linemen. I would assume that he's probably going to win one of these jobs.
Yeah, I would think so, and I think that was the plan all along when it comes to pure talent. And again, 360 pounds. I mean, you would think guard first anyway, right? I mean,
sure.
he's him and Deontay Brown, just in terms of mass as guards, got to be the biggest combination in America at this point in the preseason. So just thinking of that from a coaching perspective, from any perspective, is enticing with a freshman, with a young guy. So you absolutely have to get him on the field in some capacity. And he's got guard experience too, so it's not like all of this is foreign. You're not asking him to play center or defense or anything like that. And when you talk about Leatherwood real quick, somebody who was at practice every single day, very close to the offensive staff, told me that last year Alex Leatherwood was the best left tackle on Alabama's roster. Take that for what it's worth, but that's what they told me. they're not there anymore, so you can kind of do some crossing T's and dotting I's. But they were in the know and told me, look, Alex Leatherwood was the best left tackle last year when Jonah Williams played his way into the first round. So take that for what it's worth on Leatherwood's talent. I think that's why we're already sort of saying, okay, he's already maybe a 3-and-done first-round type, even though he hasn't played left tackle yet at Alabama. The buzz is palpable there, and it has been since he was a junior in high school.
All right, John, I want to take you back to your college playing days. John was a defensive back, played collegiate football. John, give me these 4 wide receivers. Give me the less likely guy that you would want to line up against, because I'm wanting a defensive back perspective when you talk about these wide receivers here in Tuscaloosa with Devontae Smith, Jerry Jeudy, Jalen Waddle, Henry Ruggs. Give me the least likely the guy that you would want to line up against with your skill set.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I was not a 4-4 guy, so all of those guys are, or 4-4 or better, by the way.
Yeah, but you could jam them off the line right there, couldn't you? I mean, the physicality of John Garcia.
Whoever weighs the lightest, probably Devontae Smith, I would assume, just because you have a puncher's chance if you can get him at the line. But Devontae, I mean, and Jeudy was really skinny in high school. So was Ruggs, basketball player, baseball player, track guy, 4 sports. All these guys were 175 or less in high school, so they have already dealt with that. So there is polish against that because they know, hey, that's the way you slow them down because you're not going to run with them. You cannot run with those guys. They're all unbelievable after the catch. They're all, again, 4-4 or better, so you have to play them at the line. Gosh, I hope I have safety help. I hope I have safety help if I'm going to gamble right there at the line. I would try to funnel them inside and hope that I have a good D-line getting the pass rush because, you know, the thought of a clear lane one-on-one against press coverage for Tua to any of them is, I mean, it's a touchdown, right? I mean, it's not, we don't need to be Bill Belichick breaking this thing down. I mean, if you get one-on-one, the ball's going there. And if Tua recognizes it early in his drop, I mean, that's where it's going. And it's going to be accurate more times than not. So it really is the cliche pick your poison. And it's not just 1 or 2 or 3. It's 4 guys, not even factoring in the tight ends, not even factoring in the running backs catching passes out of the backfield, which is something we've seen Alabama do a little bit more here in the last few years. So I don't know how you play pass defense against this team. It's going to lend more people to playing zone coverage, which, again, goes right back to Tua. How soon do you diagnose it? He was great last year in doing so. He's got another year under his belt, a different offensive tweak coming in with more of a pro-style approach. So you would think that breaking down zone coverage is something that him and Sark will be equipped to do, maybe more so than last year, which I thought was a little more college-style spread with some read option elements. I think you see less of that, so more technical, foundational, fundamental stuff, which means diagnosing coverage and executing. And if Tua is 80% in that category, it's just going to be hard to stop this team when they want to throw the ball. And again, running backs aren't a slouch either, so it's going to be when they want to throw the football. I don't see a lot of scenarios where they're going to have to, line up 4 wide and play in shotgun and have guys going deep. You don't have to do that. And that's the luxury Alabama's going to have for most of this year, I would expect.
Well, Johnny, it goes back to this right here, and you said it just a couple of minutes ago, but Tua said it yesterday when he was addressed the media. One of the questions talked about, well, what do you think you're going to see a lot of? And he said, well, we're probably going to see a lot of zone because if they man up on us, he said, he literally said it, but he's so correct. It's not like that he's speaking the wrong. He said, we'll torch the defense. I mean, it's pretty much what he said. We'll torch the defense, and he's right. If they line up man-on-man against these guys, it'll be off to the races. Here they go.
Yeah, you got to play zone coverage. You have to reroute these receivers. You have to. Free release play. I mean, look at the notable plays we think of when we think of Tua highlights or Jeudy or Devontae Smith. It's plays where they got a free release. Jerry Jeudy against Ole Miss, Jalen Waddle against Tennessee, Devontae Smith in the Natty against UGA. Free releases, not rerouted. Tua's accurate, and it's 50, 60, 70-yard touchdowns whenever they kind of want to. You have to reroute those guys, which means you're allocating more players to the passing game. You're using that additional defensive back, perhaps an outside linebacker, to focus almost pass first, which naturally opens up the running game a little bit more. So at some point, you're going to have to play man coverage. So it goes back to Tua. How quickly does he diagnose what he's facing? Because when 2 or 3 of those guys are on the field together, it's just a problem. So he's not even being cocky saying that he would torch you in man coverage. It's just a fact.
John, this is going to be an awesome season, man. You come out with your preseason predictions. I mean, everybody else has got a top 5. If you come out with your top 5, you're ready to go. I mean, we're 17 days away.
Yeah, I mean, 1 and 2 is flip a coin, right? Because Clemson has a lot coming back too, especially when you think of the similarities. Quarterback, all the skill guys feel like they're back, and that's the same thing. They got to replace the whole D-line, all of that. But both schedules are favorable early for those two, and you really don't see a way where it's not a collision course between these guys. But there are clear contenders, right? And you look at the priority positions. You look at quarterback. Where is Georgia? Where is Oregon? Does LSU take the next step? Those are the schools kind of on my mind. Ohio State, I mean, they have the quarterback in terms of pedigree, but we hadn't seen it on Saturdays yet. So we know everything else is there at Ohio State. It always is in that conference. There's no competition in terms of top-tier talent, but does it come together with the new coach and the new quarterback? That's to be determined, but I think it's okay to give them the benefit of the doubt right now. So it's kind of typical and chalk, but those are the teams that are on my mind today, and I think luckily we'll get some answers early, right? Oregon's got to open up with Auburn. I think that the winner of that game is setting itself up for a nice run, and the loser maybe a bad run, especially in Auburn's scenario if they come out on the bad end of that game. But we're going to get some nice matchups early in the season that help us get a pretty clear picture. Texas A&M, do they take the next step? So as usual, it starts in the SEC and ACC, and we work our way west and north from there.
John, real quick recruiting question. Somebody said I got to work it in. Bryce Young, is there anything new on him? And most of these guys, high school players, are really dialed in with their upcoming high school season. Anything new with Bryce Young?
Yeah, I mean, it's in a dead period right now for the rest of the month, so there won't be anything tangible this month. But once the games start rolling in, does he use an official visit to come to a game? He's been there unofficially as well, so it's not a scenario where he can't get back to the South to see these guys in person. But I think that, like usual with quarterbacks, you got to watch USC if you're a Bama fan. Out of the gate, they're another one where you lose a game or two in September, and the hot seat questions are starting. What, Gus Malzahn 1 and Helton 2nd, maybe?
He's got to be. Yeah, got to be.
Those are the guys that need to survive September. So you watch their season, their early season schedule. They don't have high expectations out there. A lot of youth, a lot of turnover. So I think if they start out slow, you really start to perk your ears up as an Alabama fan. And at the same token, as Bama's doing what it's supposed to do, and Tua looks like a potential number 1 pick, you feel just as good about that, because now the theoretical open door is there for another quarterback. And we know in this day and age, Ryan, that is almost as important as the scheme and the logo and the location and the conference and all of that is, what is that depth chart looking like at the quarterback position? That is paramount in recruiting. So you need Tua to kind of do his part. Well, it sounds weird, but you need him to do his part and be that 3-and-done guy we think he is as well. So if those stars start to align September, October, you really perk your ears up. And Bryce Young has admitted, hey, I'm still in contact with those guys, Steve Sarkisian, Nick Saban, et cetera. So you keep your ears perked up there and watch the trend. And it's one of those recruitments where the on-field situation that we watch every Saturday is really important to the recruitment. So you're going to be watching anyway, but it's kind of a secondary thing to, I don't want to say root for if you're an Alabama fan, but obviously keep an eye on.
John Garcia, college football recruiting analyst, college football analyst, 247 Sports, BamaOnline.com, BamaOnline.com, Yellowhammer 247, Yellowhammer 247. You can connect with him. The best way on the Twitter account is straight up at John Garcia _Jr., John Garcia _Jr. John, I hope you have an awesome week, man. Thank you again for being a part of the show here in T-Town.
Likewise, Ryan. Thanks for having me.